Hey dolls, and welcome to the Genuine Life Podcast, the lifestyle audio series created for the woman who lives life on her own terms. I'm your wine-loving host, Jennifer Nicole, here to bring you your weekly dose of positive vibes and girl chat. Now, take a deep breath, inhale all things glittery and good, exhale everything else, and let's jump right into this week's episode. Hello, beauties, and welcome back to another episode of the Genuine Life Podcast. I hope you had a great week and a beautiful weekend. I actually had a relaxing weekend. I did a lot of things that could be labeled as self-care, the cleaning and the washing of clothes, and I recharged for the week. And at the time of this recording, I'm actually wrapping up Valentine's Day weekend, and as many of you know, I am as single as a dollar bill. So it was spent alone. And although I didn't do anything super special, I did stop at a local grocery store here in Seattle. I grabbed a bottle of wine. I love my Stella Rosa. I feel like you have to say it that way, like Stella Rosa. I cooked a really good meal, and I caught up on all of my investigation discovery shows. If you know me, you know I am a sucker for anything that comes on investigation discovery, Oxygen. I feel like I've seen every episode of Law and Order that was ever created, so that's me. It turned out to be a really relaxing end to a pretty hectic week. But I have to be transparent with you if I can. Sis, this was the first time in a long time that I actually felt a little lonely. I don't know if it was me being away from family and friends, or seeing everybody getting flowers and edible arrangements, or if it's the realization that these swipes aren't on Tinder or just not working and super dry. But I started to get in my feelings, sis. I really did. And I typically don't get all mushy too much, but I don't know what it was. This definitely did it Valentine's Day this year. So I couldn't stay in that moment long. And so on Sunday, I decided to take myself out on a date, and it was just such a good reminder to continue to date myself, right? To learn everything about Jenn that there is to learn, and to do everything that I enjoy doing, whether that's with someone, with a friend, or just by myself. So I hadn't been out on one of my Jenn dates in a while. If you know me, back in Austin, I actually went to the movies and dinner every Friday. That was my thing, and I haven't done it in a while, and so I decided to check out The Photograph. So I grabbed a ticket and went to go see my friend, my bestie in my head, Issa Rae, in The Photograph this weekend. And honey, it didn't really add to me not wanting to be in love, but it definitely made me want to be in love. If you haven't seen it already, I encourage you to go out and support it. I will not give any spoilers here. That's not my style, but it's such a beautiful love story. It really just shows two people being vulnerable, and I was so here for it. I feel let's talk. In the age of Tinder and Plenty of Fish and swipes and, right here and left here, I've always wanted to meet somebody organically, right? Since I live in Seattle, bump into them at a Starbucks, or, maybe we catch eyes across an art gallery and we can't stop thinking about each other, stuff like that. And so this movie, to me, really captured what it was like to meet someone and connect when you least expect it, when you aren't looking, and when things just kind of unfold in this beautiful and natural way. And I just loved it. So I'll be sure to go see it again, because movies like that, I always try to support multiple times. It's just something that I try to do. But after the movie, I stopped at Cheesecake Factory, which I'm not sure if you know this, but you're about to find out. I am a sucker for the Cheesecake Factory. You could take me there every day. And the fact that their menu is 10,000 pages long, you could totally have something different every day. But I just love Cheesecake Factory. So I grabbed my favorites since it was my Jenn date. And I grabbed the stuffed mushrooms. Can't go wrong with the miso salmon if you haven't had it before. And I actually went for their tiramisu cheesecake, which is very rare for me. It's normally Oreo, but I decided to live a little dangerously. And that cheesecake is delicious. It's just bomb. So I gave you some things to do this weekend. But I left my Jenn date super inspired to share some ways that we, whether you're single, dating, or booed up, I want to make sure you're loving on yourself, right? And I think in the age of hearing like self care, self care, self care, I think a lot of times social media, the news, and some of our favorite like influencers kind of give us this idea of what self care is. But one thing I'm learning as I get older is it really, really depends on what is good for you, right? Everybody may not be great at yoga or may not have the money to visit a meditation resort for a week, right? So it's finding out what those things are for you that really bring you happiness and warm your soul. So I thought that I would take some time today to just share some things for you. And I'm sure that you're aware of them, but it's always good for a refresher, right? And just to hear what other people are doing. So here are a few ways that I love to love on Jenn, okay? So the first way is to take a hot bath. Now, I'm a shower girl, naturally. And sometimes I forget how good it feels to light a candle, ask Alexa to play something smooth, and just relax. I usually make the water as hot as I can take it. I'll toss in some bath salt. I'll just lay back and relax and just breathe, and I think that's so key, like just taking a moment to be in the present and just to breathe and to let things go from the day, from the week, But this is also really good for detoxing as well. I don't know about you, but every time I sit in the tub, I feel like I've sat in a sauna for like 30 minutes, So it's really good for detoxing, as well as a host of other health benefits, such as helping to fall asleep faster, lowering your blood pressure, relieving cold and flu symptoms. So this is always a winner in my book. Totally something you could do once a week, and it's free, right? Free as me. The second way for me that I love to just kind of love on myself and my space is to clean, refresh, and reorganize my apartment. So for many of you, you may or may not be aware, but since moving to Seattle, the apartments are kind of small out here. And so I really had to downsize when I moved. And I am so intentional about being very minimal in my space and keeping it clean, And I know you're probably thinking like, first of all, that sounds like work, cleaning and reorganizing my space. I thought you said we were doing self-care. Hear me out. Every time I do something different to where I live, my space, I get such a great feeling, right? It's nothing like fresh pine sol permeating your apartment, right? So whether it's updating the pillows on my couch or grabbing a new rug or purging clothes from my closet, wiping down my counters, every time I do something like this, it brings such a refreshing feeling to my space. And I don't know about you, but I cannot function if my space is messy or disorganized. This is a perfect time to throw on some good music, open up your blinds, let the sun shine in, and bring a nice vibe into your space. I've also gotten into the habit of doing quick wipe downs so that my apartment stays clean throughout the week. So another weird obsession, and I got this from my friend Monet, so I'm going to blame her publicly, but she has gotten me into watching cleaning videos on YouTube. And it sounds strange, but it's something like watching a stay-at-home mom of like 4 kids cleaning her apartment or a whole home, and I'm sitting in a studio and I seem to be struggling. That doesn't sit well with you after a while, right? It makes you get up. And so I have a really bad habit of taking my clothes off and throwing them on the floor in the bathroom keep in mind the hamper is in the bathroom, by the way. So I've really been making a conscious effort to put things back and away. And this will help keep my space clean throughout the week. I'll also take tips from those cleaning videos and just kind of like pick a room. So like every Monday, I'll wipe down my bathroom, and that's either in the morning before I leave for work or when I get home. But just really quick things, quick mop, quick wipe down of everything. Not a super deep clean, but just kind of like tidying a room up a day, so that by the time Saturday comes, you're not spending like 3 or 4 hours doing a full deep clean. And it's also really cool because when you get home from work or from being out, you walk into a clean space. So see, it's not too bad. It's fun. Another way that I love to love on Jenn is to listen to a podcast or read a book. And so this is something that I've really kind of started doing as far as the podcasts are concerned. Like, I've always listened to podcasts, but I've really just started to get into them as I've identified ones that I really could connect with. They've become such a great escape for me and actually inspired me to start my own. I love the feeling of being connected with a host, finding that common ground with someone that I'm listening to, and learning something new, or just diving into a scripted story. These are kind of new as well. You have some podcasts that are actually like actors and actresses acting out a storyline. Those have become really interesting too, especially if you're sitting at your desk listening to like this fictional story. It's pretty cool. So just to name a few, I mean, there are a ton out there, and I can list a few in the show notes, but the few that come to mind is the Slay Girl Slay podcast. If you don't listen to it, it's amazing. She's so great. Ashley is her name, and she will drop just some really good gems. They're really quick, and she just has the most soothing voice, and she just makes you feel like everything is going to be okay. And it is. But she's great. Side Hustle Pro. If you do not have that in your subscription list, you have to add it. You have to listen to it. Nikayla is the host, and she just really has taken something that is amazing. It's for the person that has that drive to really push and have a side hustle while they're working their regular 9 to 5. She has amazing hosts on her show that talk about the story of how they worked a full-time job and how they maintain their side hustles, and many of them have moved on now to where they're full-blown entrepreneurs. And so it's a great podcast. She's a fantastic host. She always seems to know the right questions to ask. She does research on her guests. So that's a great, fantastic podcast. But for all my folks that are a little dark and love a good murder podcast, I have been a fan of Sword and Scale for as long as I can remember. Their host is incredible. He has a cool voice. It's perfect for this kind of style podcast. And so I would highly suggest you take a look and listen to Sword and Scale. But I'm always looking for a new podcast. So please feel free to share some of your faves with me for sure on Instagram under the post where I announced this release of this episode. Reading used to be something I did more frequently. But to be honest with you, when life kind of happened and after school, I was just like, I can't, like, this reading thing. And I just really got back into it this year. Every year, though, I would have a goal of reading a book a month, and I would go to Barnes & Noble and grab books and download books on Audible, and then nothing. So this year, well, effective like 2 weeks ago, I was like, I'm going to get committed. Like, this is getting ridiculous. There's so many great books out there. And I am currently reading Minda Hart's The Memo: What Women of Color Need to Know to Secure a Seat at the Table. And I am hooked. I opened that book, and I mean, just the intro had me in. I mean, hooked. Okay, this book is so necessary and really has a way of making me, women of color, feel seen and heard. But I'll be sure to update you on my thoughts when I finish, for sure. I'll probably end up doing an entire podcast episode because I just feel like it's so important for us to talk about it. So Minda Hart's The Memo. Okay, so the next way for me Does involve a little fundage, okay? But it is one of the most eye-opening things you could do for yourself, in my opinion, if this isn't something you are already doing. And I promise I will do an entire podcast episode about this. But as many of you know, I took my very first solo trip via cruise almost 2 years ago. I sailed for 7 days. I went to Honduras, Belize, Costa Maya, and Cozumel on Norwegian cruise lines, and it quickly became one of my favorite ways to travel. Okay, so my number 4 tip is solo trip or staycation. Waking up and doing whatever you want to do, when I wanted to do it, how I wanted to do it, gave me so much confidence to carry that same mindset into my everyday life, right? When the vacation was over and I had to get back to like making my own bed. I won't lie though, the first day I thought, what in the world am I doing? Right? Like, who do I think I am? And I was like super reserved and I wasn't really coming out of my shell. And then it just hit me. I was like, first of all, sis, you got this unlimited drink package. I mean, no one knows you on this cruise. And it's something about watching someone else living their best life while you're living in fear that makes you snap out of whatever's holding you back and get to work, right? So I went back to my room. I threw my little 2-piece on. I grabbed some wine and I laid out by the pool. And I promise you, that is when my vacation started and this whole new mindset came about, you know? But if a cruise or a resort or traveling outside of the state is not in the budget or just not something you're interested in, because that's okay too, you can always grab an Airbnb, right? Or a hotel and spend the night outside of your home doing whatever you want. Whether that's ordering room service for all your meals that day, getting out and exploring the city with the eyes of a tourist, or getting dressed and grabbing a fancy dinner alone. There's so much to do right outside your doorstep, right here in the US of A, right? I mean, we have so many cities right here that many of us don't even venture out to, that are super affordable. If you book a flight or you want to catch a train, which is like something I love to do. But the point is to spend time alone in a different environment. You'll be so inspired by what you see. Those creative juices will start to flow and you'll find that you're learning so much about yourself. I promise you that you will learn so much about yourself spending time alone that I find it to be super powerful and liberating. Okay, now the next one is my absolute favorite. Okay, you ready? Okay. Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon Prime Video and chill, okay? There is nothing like putting on oversized sweats, a sweatshirt, grabbing a warm, freshly dried comforter from the dryer, and catching up on a new or even an old show. I usually grab my favorite snacks. I'll stop by the store and like grab all the stuff that I love, which right now is hot and spicy pork rinds. Just don't ask, and Gushers. Um, or I'll cook a good meal, something that I can eat throughout the day so I don't have to like order Uber Eats for lunch and then cook for dinner. Just something like that can last me 2 meals. And yeah, that's it. I'll chill and just relax. But the key to this, okay, I need you to turn the volume up, sis. I don't want you to miss this. The key is you're not allowed to feel guilty. Okay? Some of us get really consumed with, oh my gosh, I have to be doing something. Oh my gosh, I need to be moving. That we don't know how to just sit and relax, right? Like, sometimes that's just hard for some people to do. So allow yourself to physically and mentally rest. Check out for a few hours. It's okay. Get lost in some mindless TV, your favorite game show, or even a competition. I've been binging on old episodes of America's Next Top Model, like as if I've never seen them before, but they're great. Okay. So it's okay. Just take a moment to do it and don't feel guilty. Okay? All right, I got one more for you. My final tip for you is to utilize Do Not Disturb on your phone. Okay. Do Not Disturb has been such a gift to me. You can set yours for a specific window of time. Mine is set from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. So when I'm trying to wind down from my day. And it's just so peaceful. I mean, I know some people who utilize it just in the mornings, like while they're trying to get ready or while they're just trying to spend time with themselves mentally, getting prepared for their day. I know some that will, put their phone on Do Not Disturb while they're at the gym. As I know, usually when I would go, you get so distracted. Like if a text message comes in, you're like, oh, let me stop, answer. I've done that before. But I know some people who will block that time specifically for when they're at the gym. I have a friend that has it on indefinitely. I mean, he has it on all day. So you're lucky. I mean, at this point, we just typically message each other through Instagram, which is so funny to me. But it's just important to unplug, right? That's the point. Unplug at some point throughout the day and have that time to yourself. It's okay. And for those of you who have like family members or kids who might need to reach you while your phone is on Do Not Disturb, you can actually make people a favorite so that even if your phone is on Do Not Disturb, their stuff will still come through, their messages and phone calls. So there's no excuse, sis. And there are so many ways, right, to show yourself some love. And I'm hoping that you are setting time aside to do just that. Okay? Well, that's all I have for you today. As usual, I've enjoyed our time together. You guys are great. Thanks for tuning in. I hope something during our chat today resonated with you. Until next time, remember to be good to yourself, be kind to others, and be genuine. Well, that'll do it for another episode of the Genuine Life Podcast. I can't thank you enough for spending another week with me, and I hope you enjoyed today's show as much as I did. Be sure you're following me on Instagram at Genuine Life Podcast, and that is JENNUINE Life Podcast. It's a great way to stay connected until we meet again. I'd also love to hear your thoughts on today's show. Feel free to rate, subscribe, and or leave a review. Have a fantastic week, Diva, and I'll see you soon.